think there are a couple of really major differences. In face-to-face you have a significant amount of more contact with the students. In other words, you can look the students in the eyes, and communications is about looking at people, and hence the classes are much more interactive. Online, one of the great experiences that I had there is that one is really have to think about how the course is developed. You have to be very, very efficient. And then also you have to deal with the fact of how do you put team assignments that students will work out among themselves online, and how that is effectively being managed. What do I prefer? I love the online environment because you have interaction with the students, and students from all across the United States and the world for that matter can take the courses. So there's a great diversity in the courses. What I love about a class is really the interaction with the students.
I can think of three differences in teaching online and in face-to-face. First, I think the role of the instructor actually differs. Because the material in an online course has already been developed, you're actually not acting as an instructor, you're more of a facilitator as the students go through the course material. So you're moderating the discussion forum, you're monitoring the discussion forum, interacting with the students in that way. So you're devoting your efforts into making sure the students are understanding the material. I think the second primary difference is you don't get that immediate feedback from the students by looking at them in the eye during the face-to-face class, engaging their understanding. And because of that, it's very important that you're giving them frequent assessments and providing them timely feedback on those assessments so that you can gauge how they're doing and adjust appropriately. Thirdly, I think there is a difference in how you interact with the students. I actually find that I get more opportunity to interact with the students in online than I do in face-to-face. Maybe I have a few students stay after class and talk to me after class, but in the online environment, students are interacting with me in the discussion forum, and I often find that there's an opportunity to touch on topics that we simply wouldn't have time to touch on in the face-to-face class.
Well, there are a few significant differences, I think. So, first of all, with the online, I think one of the most important, and I think the reason why a lot of teachers get into teaching is they like interacting with the students. So you have a different type of interaction with students. In face-to-face, you could, once you explain something, you can almost look in the student's eyes and sort of determine if you're starting to get white-faced stares. You can tell if someone is really getting the information. You can't really get that online. I mean, even with the discussion areas, you may be able to determine if students are not getting it, but you can't really get it online. But there are other ways of getting information online. I mean, the students can learn at their own pace. You become more of a facilitator. You provide information to the students, and you allow the students to go at their own pace to develop and get that information. And so I think that's one of the major differences. In an online development class, you basically do all the development up first. It's not as easy to adapt the class over time, although you can do some adapting. But in a face-to-face class, you may not cover all of the material because if you notice that most of the students are sort of struggling with the material, you could sort of adapt and change it and slow it down. So I've found being able to adapt in sort of real time somewhat more difficult in the online setting as opposed to face-to-face.
Teaching online and teaching face-to-face are very different in my experience. The two main differences I found were, one, as an instructor, your preparation of material is really asynchronous with your material delivery. So you have to remember when you're in, say, week 3 of a course, you may have recorded that 12 weeks earlier, or 6 months earlier, or 2 years earlier. You have to kind of re-immerse yourself in the material and put yourself back in the position that the student is. It's not like a face-to-face course where you're getting ready to prepare that lecture, you're giving that lecture that week, you're already in the material and ready to discuss it with the students. And so the second main difference, I would say, is the loss of casual interactions with your students. For me, that 10 minutes at the beginning and end of class where I say, how's your week going? How are you guys doing with the class? How's your material? Those are important interactions for me, and it's hard to find an outlet for that in the online format. Even in the discussion section, you're really talking about the material. You're not talking about these, just general questions that really not only humanize you as an instructor for the student, but also humanize the students for you as the instructor.